Many of us have a lot of things stored digitally. Between music, documents like your resume, and the thousands of selfies you've taken in the last couple of months, we have a lot of digital data piling up. As you accumulate more and more of this stuff, you start to need more and more room to store it all. With the era of smartphones being able to take pictures whenever and wherever you want, a lot of this stuff isn't replaceable anymore, which is why it's always important to back up your files. Even if you're the type of person who takes care of their computer and their media, one day you might accidentally delete something you shouldn't have, or that hard drive can and will eventually fail. In the case of data loss like this, assuming you're unable to restore from a backup, you'll have to deal with some type of data recovery. Data loss and recovery come in a few different forms. The first and most common happens when you accidentally delete that one file that you probably shouldn't have. If you just did a normal delete, it may still be in the recycle bin. But maybe you emptied the recycle bin, or perhaps even permanently deleted it and skipped it altogether. In that case, it may seem like your data is gone forever. Well, that may not always be the case. You see, modern hard drives and SSDs, in order to save time, don't waste time actually deleting files from the disk. They instead mark the bits of the drive that the file occupied as empty. This enables them to be easily overwritten should room be required for more files, as the drive doesn't have to actually wipe the chunks of data. Instead, it can simply overwrite those entire chunks if that part of the drive is ever needed. It's exactly this sweet spot between the time that the part of the drive is marked as empty and when it's actually overwritten that you may be able to get your stuff back. Software exists for this exact reason, the most popular of which is probably the free Recuva software offered by Puriform, link in the description. In this case, the program can do all of the work and search for any of these flagged chunks of data and see if it can piece anything back together at all. The second and most destructive method of data loss is physical damage. While USB flash drives and more modern SSDs are fairly shockproof because of their lack of moving parts, many external drives contain a traditional mechanical drive. In the case of a mechanical drive, the drive and the data can be easily damaged by even short falls. A fall of just a couple of feet onto its side while the drive is running can cause what's known as a head crash, where the read and write head assembly of the drive can get stuck in a position that causes physical damage to either the read heads or even the drive platters that contain the data. In cases like this, it's best to take the damaged drive to a data recovery specialist. Fixing physical drive damage in most cases will require opening the drive, which can cause even more damage if not done in a special clean room that's free of dust and other debris. These data recovery centers take a look at what needs to be done and may have to replace the drive's logic board, the read and write head assembly, or some other part of the drive. Both opening the drive and replacing parts can cause more physical damage if done incorrectly, so before anything is done, specialists will attempt to make a bit-for-bit copy of the data on the drive, cloning both traditionally accessible data as well as any data left on sectors that are marked as unused. In cases like this, a donor drive is typically needed. The donor drive has to be the exact make and model number as the original drive, or parts might not be compatible. Drives can vary internally even within the same model. Two drives at the same model but different capacities may have a different number of drive platters, for example, which means the head assembly will not be the same in both drives. There are other incompatibilities that might cause issues like this as well, but it's best to match them as closely as you can. Assuming that a compatible donor drive can be found, the data recovery specialists replace the damaged parts with parts from the donor drive to attempt to get the original drive working. Assuming that it does work, it's still a very unreliable drive due to any damage that might have occurred to the drive platters. In fact, even the replacement of damaged parts may cause the drive to be unstable due to slight variances in the manufacturing of each drive. Because of this, specialists make that bit-for-bit clone of the entire contents of the drive. This will ensure that even if the data is corrupted, that data is mirrored exactly, enabling recovery methods for working with corrupted data to be done in the backup to prevent worsening the condition of the data on the now readable physical drive. Assuming that the data recovery company can get anything back at all, it will then be returned to you. In the case of a local company, this may be in the form of a spare drive you bring in, or even a drive that they can sell you to return the data on. In the case of a remote company, and provided that you have an internet connection capable of transferring however much data you have, it can be provided via a network drive that can be accessed remotely without you having to pick anything up physically. The real takeaway from all this is to make sure that you're making regular backups of anything you don't want to lose, with a strategy like the 3-2-1 rule. 3 backups of anything you deem important in at least 2 different mediums, with one of those backups being off-site, because the last thing that you want to do is fork over hundreds of your hard-earned dollars to recover last year's vacation photos from a catastrophic loss that you could have prevented anyway. If you like this video, there's a button for that. If you hated it, there's a button for that too. Have you guys ever had to deal with data recovery? What's your backup strategy to make sure you don't lose your files? Let us know down in the comments below. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. So as always, don't forget to subscribe to ANT Tech Tips for more videos like this one.